everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I'm going to be using part of the Pink and May November 2021 Crafty Courtyard kit. This one's called Hello You, and the main part that I'll be using are the wreaths, because the first thing I thought to try when I saw this kit was to use the wreath that has the oranges sort of mixed in with the leaves to create a Christmas wreath. And once I started doing that, I thought, well, maybe I'll try to create a wreath for each of the 4 seasons, and so that's what I'll be doing. This first one, I'll show you all of the steps, but then with the other 3 seasons, I have already prepped most everything, so I'll just show you the assembly. So first I start off by stamping out my wreath. This just stamps the outline, and I used my stamp positioning tool just so that I have the option later if I want to crisp up those black outlines with a second stamping, or maybe stamp and heat emboss to really get those lines super dark. I end up not using doing that for any of the cards because I thought that the black still shows through just fine, but at the outside I didn't know whether or not I wanted to do that, so I wanted to leave myself that option. And what's cool about this set is that you get 2 different style of wreaths. You'll see the other style in the other 3 cards that I'll be showing, and so that's really nice that we get that variety. And then the way that the stamp set has been designed is that we get the outline of the wreath, and then we get these solid stamps that allow you to color in your wreath by just inking and stamping. So of course you could always, color in with whatever coloring medium you like, alcohol markers, pencils, etc. But I like that they've given us the solid stamps so that if we're looking to color this in quickly, then this is a really nice option, and the stamps aren't that hard to line up. I'm not being overly picky about how precise I'm stamping, but most of the time I got it pretty dead on. Now, I did want to still have a little bit of depth and dimension, and so that's why you see me using 2 different colors of ink. And with the first pass, I'm stamping in the lighter of the 2 colors, and then when I go to stamp my second impression, I'll ink up the same solid stamp, but I'll try to just catch sort of the edge of the stamp, so that it's not laying down a full impression in that color, but rather just catching the edges, and so giving those edges a little bit of a shadow. It's a lot more apparent on the oranges with this particular wreath, because I don't have 2 shades of green that are both still dark, but and maybe I could have, instead of using a green, maybe I could have used maybe black soot or something for the shadow, but I think you get the idea, and it's a totally optional thing to do, but I think that it's a fast way to still have a little bit of that shadow and dimension, and not have to actually go in and color each and every leaf, or orange in this case as well. So this sentiment I am pulling is Happy Winter, and it's from the Warm Winter Wishes Crafty Courtyard kit. I haven't even crafted with this kit yet, but I knew I had it and I wanted to use it for this sentiment, and I got a little bit of an ink smudge, which is not the end of the world. Even though I was planning on using this panel in full, that's okay, because I'll just die cut it and I'll alter my plans a little bit, but you'll see me do that later too, as an option for how you can layer this up. But all 4 of my cards are going to share a very similar look and feel, so they'll feel like they are part of a set, and that way, I haven't decided whether I want to or not, but I can actually give this set of 4 cards as a little gift set, which I think would be kind of a neat gift. And for lining up the die with the stamp, I wasn't 100% sure if there's a very specific orientation that this needs to be placed in, because with the other wreath design there definitely is. Even though it's the same sort of segment of wreath that is kind of repeated all the way in that circular shape. On the other wreath design, you do have to orient your die in a very specific way, and I like it. I like that it's like that, and that it's not, so precise, because it just makes it look a little bit more organic that way. So using the embossing folder that came in the kit, I've just gone ahead and embossed a full card front panel. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it's the same white as my card base, but I'm still actually going to trim off 1/8 of an inch along the side and the bottom, and that's going to leave me a very, very, very thin border, a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And I know it's just white on white, but I still like having that little bit of a solid white border all the way around. And I like embossing the white panel because I want to keep all of that white space, but I want that space to still look interesting and not blank. And so embossing I found to really enjoy more and more as a way of preserving the white space, but also making it interesting. But it doesn't take away from your focal image. It just to me makes it feel a little bit more complete sometimes, and a little bit more finished, because otherwise sometimes I feel like the white space just looks like something's missing. That's not always the case, but I, in this case, wanted to have that embossed background. So then with to turn this more Christmassy, I have a lot of Christmas florals, and this little poinsettia, what I'm doing is sort of distressing the edges with some glue. So I'm just putting some glue right on the tips. I'm not being precise with it at all. And then I'm gonna glam it up a little bit with some gold glitter, just to make this look a little bit more festive, a little bit more sparkly and fun. And then in the center, I'm going to dot some glue right in the middle there, and then again put some glitter right in the middle. So the 4 that I prepared in advance have already dried. So here's what they look like once we've tapped off all the excess. And then off to the left side there are some sprigs, and I used some Nuvo drops to put some I think they're kind of supposed to be berries, but I used gold Nuvo drops on those just because I thought that I would be using a gold bow on the wreath, so I wanted there to be a second element of gold. So what I'm going to do first, though, I already have my sentiment adhered directly onto my embossed panel. So that's flat to the card base. But the wreath portion here, I'll actually pop up on some foam so that we get some height and some dimension. The foam that I'm using, it is double-sided with adhesive, but these little foam squares are kind of old, and so I don't know how strong that adhesive is anymore. So I'm dotting on some glue on both sides, not being too careful to get it on every single little square, but I want some liquid glue on enough of those segments to make sure that this really does stick and it doesn't fall off. And the bows and the poinsettias and the leaves and everything, they're from other die sets out of my stash, because the Crafty Courtyard box isn't specifically designed to create these seasonal wreaths. So I did have to pull in a lot of things from various sets in my stash, and I'll link to everything that I use in the description box below, and I'll leave a little note, as to what set has what elements. Here, most everything is from a Paper Discovery die set that I recently picked up from their Advent calendar collection. And what I'm going to do is with the foliage, and you'll see me do this for the other wreaths as well, I'll start with the darker foliage and then I'll kind of start layering the lighter ones on top. And that just helps to, again, just give some dimension and that impression of more depth. And I also try to rotate the foliage, since that is just one die cutting out all of those pieces. I try to rotate them in different ways, maybe snip them down so that they just look a little bit different and not so obviously the same die cut. And I almost forgot that I had these little these little sprigs with the holly on there. So the first few that I did, I made like the full domed Nuvo drop, but those were so dimensional, or the one that I left behind there is so dimensional, I end up not using it. The subsequent ones, I just sort of spread the Nuvo drop out a little bit, and then I kind of domed it towards the center, and so it wasn't quite that full drop. Okay, so Christmas wreath complete. Now we're gonna move into spring. And here, the panel that has been embossed is actually the same panel that I stamped onto originally. And this is what I meant to do with the Christmas wreath as well. But because I got that little ink smudge, I went to my plan B. But I did stamp this on a panel, and then I'm inlaying it all flat right back where it came from. And so this card will be much more flat and a lot easier to mail. So this is another option if you want to keep your cards more flat and not use any foam. So the nice thing about stamping and then being able to die cut that whole element out is that your sentiment in the center there stays nice and flat. And the whole image stays nice and flat. And then by embossing what's left over, you still get, this really nice effect of just having that embossing around the outer edge of the wreath, and everything else nice and flat. So again, I'm gonna lay down my foliage first, and with this wreath design, I'm actually going for one of those more all over designs. And so I'll have the flowers, these little bitty flowers, just kind of strewn, around the entire wreath. I want to leave some of the wreath, the stamped wreath, still showing. I don't want to cover it up completely. But with this design, I just wanted to do something a little bit different from the first one. And I'm using my 3D Collal glue gel. And that just gives me a lot more wiggle room in case I need to pick up an element, move it around, or nudge it a little bit here or there. Or if I decide I need to tuck something in and layer things up a bit, I have a lot of open time with that. And this little bird, I found him the hardest to place. I kept looking for a good place for him. The flowers and the foliage that I used on this wreath and some of the subsequent ones, it's actually from a Sizzix cake pop-up die set, which surprisingly has a lot of different flower styles and a lot of different foliage. And this summer card will feature two different or another flower, I should say, and another style of foliage or type of foliage. But I'm doing the exact same thing as with my second card. So I stamped and die cut from a full USA 2 size panel. And then what's left over from the panel, I ran that through my embossing folder. And I'm going to do the exact same thing where I inlay this whole piece right back where it came from, so that we start off with a very, very flat card. And the reason why I'm making it flat for this card is because I do have quite a bit of dimension and shaping with these sunflowers. And so I didn't want to put all of that, such a dimensional flower on top of a raised wreath. So the wreath and the sentiment are flat to the card, but the sunflowers are nice and dimensional. And I'm going to use that same design where similar to the Christmas card or Christmas wreath, that I kind of put this off to one side. And so here you can see me rotating that one sunflower all the way around because I've got that 3D glue gel there that I keep in the syringe, which when you buy the glue, it does come with that applicator. So it's really nice to just squeeze out what you need. And then for my final card, we are onto fall or autumn. And here, just like on my first card, I have the full panel embossed. And I'll put my wreath and my sentiment in. Again, similar to the first card, I'm going to put the sentiment down flat to the card, and you can see I keep having to rotate this around so I can make sure I get this back in quickly. When I go to put this down, I gave myself a little pencil mark on the back of this wreath so I know which way is up. And again, I'm going to pop this one up on foam just like I did for the winter or the Christmas card. The Happy Autumn sentiment is actually from the Pumpkin Season Crafty Courtyard kit, so that's available. And then the sentiment for spring and summer I got from Vitamin C from that kit. So I tried to always go to Pink and Main first to find what I needed, but to get a lot of the foliage and things to decorate my wreath with, I did have to kind of step outside a bit. I did try to keep it minimal, which is why the Sizzix cake pop-up die set came in handy, because this as well is from that die set, which I'm using these as sort of little kind of wheat stalks, I suppose, and I've die cut that out of a couple of different colors of orange and yellow. And then these leaves, again, also from that Sizzix cake pop-up, are they kind of look more fall-ish to me. I think they're like an oak leaf, maybe. I don't know my leaves, but we'll say it's an oak leaf. And then the acorn, I went first to try out the acorn that came in the Pumpkin Season Crafty Courtyard box, but that's a different style. It doesn't have the black outline, and so instead I found this acorn which fit scale wise. So it's from a Crafter's Companion set, and it has the coordinating die that is included with it. So I was able to die cut out the acorn, and I just colored it with some Copic markers, or not Copic, sorry, alcohol markers. I used my Ohuhu markers on that, and the I thought it went pretty well because the wreath itself has a little bit of that white outline as well. So here's a final recap of all my seasonal wreaths. This one I did touch up with a Nuvo drop in the center of all of my little flowers as my finishing touch there. Then my summer card has some sunflowers off to one side, and they've got that glitter center. You can see that dimension that the sunflowers have. So this is definitely a card that maybe you would want to put in an envelope box and give it maybe by hand. I don't know how well that will ship. And then here is my autumn card with the wreath propped up on foam. I've got the acorn on 3D collage glue gel, and this, because the glue gel, when it dries completely, it's going to be pretty hard. So that I don't think will get crushed, but the shaping on the sunflowers might, and same with this card. The shaping on the poinsettias might get flattened a little bit through shipping. But this one is my winter or holiday card wreath with that little bit of glitter edging to the poinsettias, and this one too has the little birdie. So I had a lot of fun making these seasonal wreaths with this Pink and Main stamp and die set. I think it's so versatile, and I love that we have the two designs too. So definitely looking forward to making more of these cards and using them throughout the year. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that you liked my cards, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I publish them, click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Thanks so much again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!